Welcome to Professional Networking webinar hosted by CSLD. This is a really important topic because it is a really great practice to do as a job seeker. In this webinar, I hope that you learn the basics of networking, how to do it, why it is so important, and how to use certain tools so that you can begin the process of networking with other people. So just to start off with a basic definition, networking is the ongoing process of building and maintaining relationships as a way to mutually share information and advice. So obviously the key piece here is the building and maintaining of relationships. But I do want to highlight that word of mutually share information and advice. This is a two-way street. Any relationship ought to be mutual. And so while as a student right now, you may find yourself more on the receiving end of information and advice, I want you thinking about these relationships as a longer term type of relationship that you can be able to provide information and advice back as well. So I want to talk a little bit about the advantages of networking. As you can see from this stat, 75% of jobs are found through networking, through some connection, either a connection that you already have or a connection that you develop over the course of your time in a particular position or in college. When we look at this diagram, these are many ways that people seek out jobs. Most often, job seekers start at the top of the pyramid and work their way down. So they start with the internet. I'm going to go to a website and look at postings online. I'm going to find a job that looks interesting to me, and I'm going to submit my resume and cover letter and see what happens. And then maybe you've applied to a whole bunch of jobs and you haven't really heard back from much, and so you try out some of these other methods. You go to a recruitment agency to see if you can get placed somewhere, or you tap into professional organizations. Then maybe you're thinking about, okay, who do I know? And then kind of move in that direction. Companies, on the other hand, they hire in the reverse order. So they start at the bottom of the pyramid. They look, can we promote someone internally? Who already works here that we can elevate? Or they reach out to their own staff and they say, hey, people, who do you know? Do you have any contacts that you could recommend for this job? And then maybe they do some networking, like they attend career fairs at SF State or other types of networking events. And so you can sort of see this process. What we want you to do ultimately is really hit the sweet spot of the networking and word of mouth and contacts from internal staff. Those are really going to get you the most bang for your buck in terms of finding more success in networking. So typically, when people are job searching, what most people do there on the left, they spend most of their time just looking around online, finding postings and applying, and a little bit of time just doing networking and maybe some of the activities that go on in school, like events that we put on with CSLD. But what I want you to do is on the right-hand side. Networking should be the largest chunk of the time and energy that you put into your job search, building those relationships, because ultimately those are going to be the connections that help you get a job. You still got to play the online game, search for those openings, and a lot of times those openings can sort of guide who you should be networking with. But I do want you to spend the majority of your time building that network. Finally, I want to show you this in terms of advantage of networking. When you look at the top 5 ways that students obtain internships when they're in school, it's these areas. And you can see that the internet is the lowest. That process of just searching for an open position and applying for it only yields success about 5% of the time. Now, most of the rest of those, career fair, faculty contact, friend of a friend, and personal contact, all those pertain to networking through some relationship. Career services obviously isn't entirely considered networking unless you tie back into the career fair piece of that other bar. But you can see here that networking is a really powerful way for people to obtain internships, much more so than just searching online. So as you think about building your own network, I want you to think about these 3 categories. First up is your own network, your friends and your family. These people are crucial to your own network. To give a quick example, when I was in school, I was searching for an internship. I was going to school in Indiana, but my hometown was in New Jersey. And I really wanted to have an internship back home in New Jersey. But I was having a really hard time because I was just using the internet. I was just searching for those postings and not really getting a whole lot of feedback. So I finally reached out to my dad, who was not in the same field. I was in education and he was in sales. And I was just sort of, complaining a little bit, like, man, I'm having a real hard time finding this internship. And he said, hey, actually, I play basketball with a guy every Tuesday night. He's in education. Let me talk to him. And it was through that connection that ultimately I landed an internship. I was able to connect with his contact, and I had an internship lined up within 3 weeks from that time. And so I didn't realize the importance of tapping into my existing network, even if they weren't in my field. Family and friends are so important. After you've exhausted that, then you want to think about networking with SF State alumni. These are people that you share a connection with because you attend the same school. So when you're thinking about maybe particular positions that you want to be going for or certain companies that you want to target, we have SF State alumni who are in those spaces, and connecting with them can be a really powerful way to get you into the door. Finally, you want to think about networking with new contacts. These would be like total strangers, but maybe, again, are connected with a certain company that you want to target or a particular position. Now, as you can see from these arrows, I want you spending the most amount of your time with family and friends, and then SF State alumni, and the least amount of time trying to network with new contacts. So that kind of gives you a breakdown of the time frame. So now let's talk about the keys to effective networking. Make a plan, make your pitch, and follow up. And we're going to go through each of these. So key 1 is to make a plan. It's really helpful to have a good mindset toward what is your career goals. Where do you see yourself in the next 5 or 10 years? When you can sort of play that out a little bit more and understand where you're going, then you know how you want to network, who you want to network with, and all of that. So that leads to the next point. What do you want to accomplish through networking? There's a lot of things that you can get out of these sorts of relationships. And so having a target in mind is really helpful. So are you looking for general career advice? Something that's really broad, doesn't really pertain to maybe a particular field. You're just looking to talk to somebody who's further on. Are you trying to learn about a particular job type or industry? Again, talking to people who are already doing the work in those industry areas can really help make that real for you. Or are you looking to make a connection at a specific company? Let's say you are going to be applying for an internship at Twitter. We absolutely have alumni that work at Twitter. And so by you reaching out to those alumni can help you maybe get a sense for what it's like to work there, or even better, maybe they're willing to put in a good word for you or take your resume and show it to a recruiter. Next up is, who do you want to connect with? It's really helpful to maybe list the types of companies that you want to target. Maybe thinking about particular job types or job titles. And so searching for the type of people that are in those roles. Or are you thinking about talking to somebody who's a recent grad, who's maybe just a year or a couple years out, somebody who is a little bit closer to your own experience level? Or are you looking to talk to a more seasoned professional, someone who is, 10, 15 years down the road that can sort of give a bigger picture of maybe the trajectory of where you're headed? Either way, all of these things are really helpful to think through, so that way you have a plan of action that guide, who you want to talk to and what you want to talk to them about and what's the purpose behind it. So I would challenge you to make a list. List out some friends and family that you know you want to connect with. List out some companies or organizations that you want to be targeting. And list out a couple questions that you can ask to start a conversation. Honestly, simply going on Google and Googling conversation starters, you're going to find some really great stuff. We also have handouts in CSLD. You can find those on our website under online resources. And we have some great conversation starters and questions to ask somebody that you're networking with. So key number 2 is having a great elevator pitch. An elevator pitch is a quick introduction to yourself. The idea being that if you were in an elevator with somebody that you really wanted to meet, maybe it's the CEO of the company that you're a part of, and you want them to know who you are. You got 30 seconds before they get off at the next floor. What do you want them to know about you? So I want you to develop an elevator pitch if you haven't already. A 30-second pitch of yourself. And here's some guiding questions that can help you develop this statement. Who are you? What do you do? Or what do you study? Maybe a recent experience that you've had. What are your future goals? So that's kind of that thinking, 5 years out. What makes you unique? Is there kind of an aspect of an experience that you've had or a passion area that you have that's going to make you a little bit different, stand out a little bit more, make you memorable? And then finally, how do you do your work? What skills or strengths do you bring that help you do your work better? So I want to give you a sample elevator pitch. Hello, Mr. Stevens. My name is Jessica Harris, and I'm currently a senior computer science major at San Francisco State University. I'm interested in IT support in the healthcare industry. Last summer, I interned at Kaiser Permanente, where I learned, and you can share a strength or a skill. I see that you currently work for IBM as a technical support analyst, and I'm very interested in what you do and how you got there. So the reason why I really like this elevator pitch is because it sticks to the relevant facts. It brings up a particular experience, this internship, and gets specific enough to kind of talk about a particular strength. That's that piece that makes you different. And then my favorite thing is the very end, it pivots to getting that person to talk to you. And so by saying, I'm very interested in what you do and how you got there, that's prompting that person to share a little bit more. And then you get to be in listener mode and then ask some follow-up questions. But this is really just the start of a conversation, ideally. Finally, key 3 is to follow up. There's some great tools like LinkedIn and Gator Connect, in which I'll show you in just a few minutes. These tools can help you stay connected to people that you get a chance to talk to. You can also use those tools to connect to people. After you've spoken to somebody, send a thank you note. That could be a handwritten note that you send in the mail, but it could be as simple as a quick LinkedIn message or an email follow-up, but just to say thank you for your time and the energy that you put into sharing your experience. It also just keeps the conversation thread going. Ideally, then maybe they will reply to that. Or if you want to reconnect down the road, you can kind of jump right back onto that email or message thread. Finally, keep your network updated on some of what you're up to. If you get a new position, post that on LinkedIn, or specifically send an email to a person who you spoke with who maybe gave you advice about a particular position. They want to know your own successes, and that's a really helpful thing. So now I want you to start networking. And we're going to now take a look at these tools, LinkedIn and Gator Connect, so that you can see how you can leverage these technologies, these social medias, to expand that network and get networking with other people. This is LinkedIn. We're going to use this tool specifically to target network with SF State alumni. There's a couple ways that you can do that. First, in the search bar, you can search for San Francisco State University and go to the schools page. From here on the left-hand side of the screen, you're going to see this alumni button. And when you click that, you get the information for 195,000 alumni. And we have information here about where they live, where they work, what they do, and what they studied. So this is a great way to do some filtering and maybe find some folks that are in your target area. So maybe you want to start with finding people who studied the same degree. So if I was interested in finance, I'm studying finance, I can click there and I can see all the places that they live and work. So I want to continue filtering by the San Francisco Bay Area. And maybe I want to see those who work at Charles Schwab, since that's a target place of mine. I've done all that filtering, and now I can see those 15 alumni and their profiles below. And I can find folks that I may want to connect with. Anyone that you do want to connect with, you can hit the connect button and always add the message. You've got about 300 characters, which ends up being about 3 to 5 sentences to quickly introduce yourself and explain why you're reaching out. Something like, hey, I just recently applied to the open internship at such and such company, and I was delighted to see a fellow SF State alum working here. I would love to hear a little bit more about your experience working at the company. This just gives them a sense for why you're reaching out, and they're more likely to accept your connect request. Or you can do a much more targeted approach and search for a particular company. So in the keywords, maybe I want to search for Google, and I can specifically target Google in where they work, and I want to focus on the Bay Area. And now I've got all these folks that work at Google, either currently or previously. And so I can either check out sort of the general folks that show up here, or I can head back over to what they do, and maybe I really want to focus in on a particular area like marketing. And again, now I'm seeing all the marketing folks at Google. So these are great ways to do some targeted keyword or bar graph filtering for alumni that might be a really great connection for you. Another way is when you're searching for jobs on LinkedIn. If I head over to the jobs tab, I can search for jobs, in general, but you'll notice that any of these companies are going to tell you if there are any SF State alumni or you have any connections at particular companies. So let's say I want to check this company out. When I click on the posting, I can actually click on the 10 company alumni. And now I'm going to get a list straight away that I can immediately target SF State alumni at the company that I'm going to apply for their job. So those are just two great ways to target and find alumni using the LinkedIn platform. This is Gator Connect, professional networking and mentoring platform specifically for the SF State community. On here, you're going to find other students and SF State alumni who are absolutely willing to connect and network with you. So to use this platform, when you log in, this is your home screen where you will receive matches based on your profile. And so I can scroll through any of my matches that are suggestions of who you should be connecting with. Or you can head over to the Explore the Community section and search generally for users on here that, again, fit areas like location, similar major, industry experience, or keyword searching. When you find somebody that you want to connect with, you can either chat with them straight away or click into their profile to read a little bit more about their experience. And let's say I want to connect with Joseph. I hit the Let's Connect button, and this will take me to a messaging platform where I can see a little bit more of their information along the side here, and I can start writing a message. If you're getting stuck, you can always start with one of these helpful templates like networking advice, career exploration, or choosing a major. Or again, you can just start writing a message yourself. You can also request a meeting using this platform by selecting a couple dates, choosing what kind of meeting you want, how long, and then selecting some times. So this all just makes it very easy for you to send messages and suggest meetings with folks that you want to connect with. We also have various groups that you can check out. Discussion is where we post questions, where you can pose questions, and resources is where we're going to drop articles and other helpful things for you to check out related to networking or mentoring. So please use this as a way to continue to connect with others, expand your network, and meet with alumni. These are my final networking tips. It's really helpful to be yourself, be authentic, because yourself is what you're going to be bringing to the job. And so you want to be true to yourself and kind of bring that confidence that you are awesome and that you have great things to bring. It's okay to take baby steps. This can be a daunting process for a lot of people. Maybe you don't know where to start, or maybe it's just a little bit scary reaching out to somebody that you've never spoken to before. So maybe just draft up a message first and send it to a career counselor in CSLD. We can take a look at it. Or maybe just send that first message to one person and see if they respond to you. It's okay to start slow, start small, but then you want to build from there. For a lot of times, if you are in a networking situation, maybe at a career fair or some other networking event where there's a lot of people, sometimes it is helpful to build in a little bit of alone time or some time to sort of reflect and think, how am I doing? How has this gone? What ways can I improve? Have a plan. We talked about that. It's really helpful to know who you want to talk to and why. And it's helpful to have an exit plan. We talked about conversation starters, but you also maybe sometimes want conversation enders too. It's helpful to brainstorm some conversation starters ahead of time, especially if you find yourself at a particular event around a topic or maybe a particular industry. Doing a little bit of that research ahead of time, that you can kind of generate some questions that relate to that particular event can be helpful. When possible, it's awesome to have a buddy. I love the buddy system. It kind of can boost your confidence. Reach out via email as a starting point. If you have never met somebody before, sometimes the distance of an email or even a message through LinkedIn can be helpful because it gives the other person a chance to kind of respond on their own time. And finally, fake it till you make it. Again, for some people who are intimidated by this process, you just have to kind of be confident, even if you don't always feel confident. And you'll notice that your confidence really builds the more that you do it. The first, message that you send out or the first time that you meet up with somebody can be daunting. But the next time you do it, it's going to feel more natural. And the time after that, it's going to feel even more natural. So just keep at it, and I promise it'll go great. So these are my networking tips, and I hope that you dive into this process of building those relationships as you seek out your jobs. Best of luck. For more information, please visit us at csld.sfsu.edu.